Good morning, everybody, and welcome again to another edition of the Practice Gratitude Success Show. Hey, Chris, thanks for coming here today. Craig, I know a lot of other people told me they're going to be coming in late, so thank you so much. And I have a special guest today. Of course, I always have a special guest. Every guest is special, but I'm going to pull up the introduction here. This lady here, Edie Weinstein. Actually, she's a friend of the other Edie, Gally, who was on just like last week. She was on here last week, so. And then she's also a friend of the other guest that I had on, Judy Martini. So they're kind of like in the same circle of women who are just doing amazing things out there in the world. And Edie's a journalist, an interviewer, a speaker, an interfaith minister, a licensed social worker. She's a radio host. It's all about, it's her thing is all about relationships, vividlife.me. And she's author of The Bliss Mistress Guide to Transforming the Ordinary into the Extraordinary, and the co-author of Embraced by the Divine, the emerging woman's gateway to passion, power, and purpose. Whoa. She calls herself an optimistic who sees the world through the eyes of possibility. She writes for the Huffington Post, BeliefNet, Psych Central, Elephant Journal, and the Good Men Project. And Edie, welcome so much and thank you so much for coming here today.
Thank you, Bob. I love being here on the show with you. So this is going to be fun.
You sound like a very busy lady.
Yes, I am. Actually, I'm less busy than I was prior to an event that happened almost 2 years ago that I'll be sharing with you about. In addition to all of those things, I used to work full time as a therapist in addictions counselor and in an outpatient drug and alcohol rehab. So I did all of that and hold down a full-time job. So This is easy in comparison.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So, BeliefNet, I've been actually following BeliefNet for a lot of years. I mean, going way back. So what do you do with those guys?
Well, I write something called the Bliss Blog, and I think I've been with them 4 or 5 years now. Okay. And for those that don't know, BeliefNet is an interfaith spiritual website, and it has articles about all different things having to do with spirituality, religion, and I differentiate between the two, by the way, but spirituality, religion, faith, connection with whoever you believe in. So I've been writing, the Bliss Blog for them, and it's a wonderful opportunity to explore your relationship with the God of your understanding.
Yeah, I think I don't know when it was. It might have been lots of years ago when I found it, and it was just like a cool thing because it's all about just connecting to your higher source, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Whatever that higher source is for different people, because it is different for different people. And
yeah. Well, what I say, and again, I've been an interfaith minister. I joke that, how did a nice Jewish girl become an interfaith minister? And I think a lot of it had to do with my parents allowing my sister and me to go to church with Christian friends to explore different faith traditions. And at the root, it was still Judaism. But when I was in college, I took classes on Eastern religion and have since expanded. I went to the New Seminary, which is a school in New York, and the motto is never instead of, always in addition to. So what I believe, and I don't have the right to tell anybody what to believe spiritually, but when people ask me about my religion, I say, love is my religion and God's too big to put in a box. So and the God of my understanding changes moment to moment. So I encourage people to explore whatever that means to them.
I love that. I love the inclusiveness. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will say, I like to use the word "and" instead of "but."
Absolutely.
Yeah, because they'll say something like, "Oh, your religion is this, but," Right. Whereas if you say "and," then you can include it into the whole mix.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, it is, and it is inclusive. That for me is what spirituality is. Oops, I think we lost the camera here. Let me go back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes,
Oh, okay. Oh no.
Your face disappeared.
There I disappeared. There you go. Poof. Sometimes I hide in plain sight.
Now,
so yeah,
what is your thing about your attitude of gratitude? Tell us about that thing that says the Gratitude Show.
Okay, well, it's interesting you mentioned. Yeah, you say it very well. I'm from the Philadelphia area, and a lot of people pronounce attitude as attitude. So ATTYTOOD. So what I decided is to call it an attitude of gratitude. GRATTYTOOD. And for me, it's everything. Even in the midst of huge challenges and changes in my life, I find something to be grateful for because I know that it's all a lesson. And every morning I do a gratitude exercise where I'm grateful for waking up, grateful for the people in my life, for having a lovely home and a car that works. Right now, as we're speaking, is having some major work done. So later today, I'll have a fully a health car. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for life lessons. I'm grateful for my creativity, the muse that wakes me up in the middle of the night to write things. I'm grateful for my health. And one of the biggest things I'm grateful for right now is to be alive. On June 12th of 2014, I had started my day like a normal, whatever normal is, normal day. I went to the gym where I was going 5 or 6 times a week for what I would call my playouts instead of workouts, because they were much more, it's much more fun thinking of going to the gym as a play out rather than a workout.
Mm-hmm.
And on my way home from the gym, I had this bizarre experience. I got jaw pain and tightness, like somebody grabbed me by the jaw and squeezed. I had searing heartburn pain across my chest and back. I had heart palpitations, lightheadedness, dizziness, and torrential sweats. And I knew I had cooled off after going to the gym, so it wasn't that. And for those of your listeners that have been through menopause, it's worse than any hot flash you'd ever imagine. And I thought, I think I'm having a heart attack. But being the workaholic that I was then, I didn't go straight to the hospital. I drove home, and I had a client that I was going to see an hour later. So I called and said, I don't think I'm coming in today. I'm not feeling very well. And then the next thought was, I'm really sweaty. I need to take a shower, which was interrupted by, oh my God, woman, what the heck are you doing? Get yourself to the hospital. And I didn't call 911. I drove myself to the hospital. Don't ever, 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 ever do that, folks. If you think you're having a heart attack, call 911. Let them get you there. Fortunately, I had guardian angels accompanying me because I didn't crash. I could have killed somebody. So I stumbled into the ER, and the hospital near me is called Doylestown Hospital, which if you have to have a heart attack, that's the place to go. They're in the top 100 cardiac care programs in the country, top 10 in the state of Pennsylvania, I believe, is the the order that it's in. And I walk in there and I said very calmly, I think I'm having a heart attack. They whisked me up to the cardiac cath lab. An hour later, I had a stent inserted that kept a fully occluded artery propped open. And I think it was that day, the surgeon came in right afterwards and showed me 2 pictures. One of them, and I really should have it for show and tell, I've got to find them now. But the first one was what my artery looked like, collapsed, and it was like a broken tree branch, like kind of hanging like that. Wow. The second picture was what it looked like with a stent in it, and it was popped back up. And he said, don't ever let this happen again. And I said, well, how do I prevent it? Right. And I said, why did it happen? And we talked about family history. My mom had congestive heart failure that she died from at 84 or 86. My sister had 2 heart attacks at that point and has since had a third. I thought that I was eating healthfully, mostly vegetarian, but a lot of the foods that I was eating were high in sodium and high in cholesterol. And you got to watch that stuff. Stress was a huge factor. I was working that full-time job, something like 12 hours a day, and then coming home and writing, getting maybe 5 or 6 hours sleep a night. So I was sleeping half as much as I was working. And not only the addiction of workaholism, but the addiction of codependence, being a caregiver, savior behavior, taking care of everybody and not taking care of myself. So those were things that contributed to the heart attack. So the gratitude piece about that was, number 1, I'm still alive. Number 2, I have amazing family and friends that kicked my butt into staying healthy, that took care of me, people that were willing to do things for me, friends that encouraged me to nap, which I do not every day, but when I need to, I take a nap. I went to cardiac rehab for about 6 months, and now I just am a regular member at a gym where I work out. And I had to learn how to live all over again. Now, one thing that I want to share with folks is that the first part of recovery is physiological. You take your medications, you eat right, you rest, you exercise, you do all those things. The second part is emotional. A friend who had been through a cardiac event herself 8 or 9 years ago said, you suffered a trauma. your body has experienced a trauma. So you may have PTSD symptoms, post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. You may feel depressed, which I never did. I had, every once in a while I had the blues, but I wouldn't call it depression. And as a psychiatric social worker, I know the difference. They said, you're also going to feel a loss, you know, that you face death. And she was absolutely right, because back in the fall, I had this amazing, it was almost like open heart surgery. And I did not have open heart surgery, literally, but emotionally and spiritually, I was cracked wide open, crying just about every day, being incredibly vulnerable with people in my life, saying things, sharing things. And I take risks now that I wouldn't. I share things that I wouldn't have before, because we never know what our last day is going to be. So I live as if today could be my last day, not in a morbid, maudlin, oh my God, I'm going to die kind of day, but I could, you could, any of us could. So I don't miss telling people I love them. I don't miss telling people how I feel. That's awesome. Part of the gratitude too. So
yeah, that is so important, because like you just said, you know, we just don't know when their last breath is gonna come.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, I always think back of, you know, like when 911 happened, and those people that were making those final phone calls, talking to their loved ones, and it wasn't about, hey, make sure you take out the garbage, or it wasn't those sort of things. It was all about love. It's all the last words, you know.
Yep, it actually is. And wouldn't it be nice? I mean, if the last word you said to somebody were the words that you love them, and that you felt loved and that they felt loved. I don't miss that opportunity. I mean, I grew up in a family like that too, that, you know, I love you weren't just words, they were actions. So I believe in putting legs under what I say. And I think that has a lot to do with my healing as well.
Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about gratitude. Now, did you have this strong practice of gratitude that you're doing now? Did you have that before you had the heart attack?
Oh, absolutely. You know, in my family, we focused on gratitude. You know, we said thank you to each other for things, but my parents always made sure that my sister and me my sister and I felt grateful for what we had. They modeled it. They modeled gratitude. They also modeled volunteering. So they took what they had and put the energy out into the world. So I think part of the reason that they were such active volunteers into their 80s was that they felt grateful for what we had. Now, I grew up in a blue collar, middle class family. My dad was a milkman and then a bus driver, and my mom was a switchboard operator. So we weren't wealthy financially by any stretch, but we had enough. And my parents were very generous people, and they gave of their time and what money that they had. So I think that flowed from gratitude also. You know, we're grateful for what we have, so we want to share it with other people. You know, people, So I learned that from them.
Yeah, you're so blessed to grow up in a family like that practices that. You're so blessed to have that.
Yep, absolutely, I was.
Now, Edie, what is you mentioned something about the victim, survivor, thriver triad. What is that?
Well, when people have life-changing experiences, they often feel like victims, like, oh my God, why me? Why is this happening to me? Poor me, all of that. And yeah, there are times when people are victimized by others. For example, those who are abused by adults when they're children, they're victims. People that are, you know, violence done against them, people that are raped, people that are in abusive situations, people that are in war zones. You know, they are victims of other people's choices, and there may be nothing they could have done to have prevented the victimization. The next step, or actually, let me roll back a little bit. When people feel like victims, they feel disempowered. They feel like there's nothing they can do to change their lives. There's nothing they can do to improve on them. And they sometimes stay stuck. A lot of the people that I served as a social worker remain in victim mode. And it's not about blaming the victim, because some folks have never learned how to feel any differently, because that's what they were taught when they were children, is that you're stuck in this situation, ain't nothing you can do about it. So the survivor part is to say, okay, yes, I've been through hell. And when you go through hell, the best way to recover is to keep walking instead of staying entrenched in a hellish situation. So people that are survivors, get themselves out or let other people help them get out of them. And they may carry with them some resiliency skills that have them saying, okay, I went through this terrible ordeal. Now what? Because what you could say is, oh my God, now what? Or, okay, now what? And they find the resources or allow other people to support them in the recovery. Then the third step, thriver. When you think about thriving, it's like, oh, all this energy and excitement and enthusiasm for life, and you're growing. Thrivers not only have survived ordeals or challenges or losses, but they take what they've learned and they pay it forward. One of the best role models that I've ever had for that is Dr. Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. Are you familiar with him?
I love this story. I use it all the time.
Yeah. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist, and he and his family were was it Auschwitz? I think was the camp that they were in. He was the only one that survived from his family. And what he decided while he was there was that although and I forget the exact quote, that the Nazis could imprison his body, but they could never imprison his mind. And his choice was to love instead of hate. And he taught other people how to do that. My mentor, Dr. Yvonne Kay herself, is a survivor of all kinds, a thriver of all kinds of things. She grew up in fact, she would be wonderful to have on your show. She grew up in London during the Blitzkrieg, and she was ferried out of the city into the countryside as part of the Kindertransport. And Viktor Frankl was her mentor. And she's taught me about the art of resilience. Other people that I consider resilient thrivers are the people that created Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or there's an organization here in Philadelphia called Sarah's Smiles. Sarah was a little girl who died of cancer, and after she died, her family decided to create this foundation that helps other children in oncology units, and they put together these adorable little packages that they give to the kids so that it helps the hospital feel homier and if you can imagine that. So I volunteer for them, and the family, Sarah's family are resilient thrivers. So there's always a choice. There may not be a choice of the victimization, but there is always a choice about how we rise to the occasion. And I choose to do that. I chose not to stay down. I could, I certainly could have said, oh, poor me, I'm a victim. There's nothing I can do about this. But I promised a nurse at 4 o'clock in the morning, my first night in the hospital. She came in, how they wake you up in the middle of the night to make sure you're still alive. I promised her, and she said, when you recover, you need to start educating other women about cardiac care, and health and all that. So she said, but not until you take time to recover. So I am doing that now. I had spoken at a women's networking gathering a few weeks ago in my area, and our local CBS News affiliate came out, or NBC, I'm sorry, NBC, shame on me, NBC News affiliate came out, and they filmed me, and it was just aired this morning, and it was about women's heart attack symptoms being different from men's, and that was what I was describing. So that's part of my education. I'm speaking at my chiropractor's office this week about that. So any chance I have, and anybody watching this, if you're looking for someone to do a presentation on heart, on heart healing, I call it From Wonder Woman to the Bionic Woman, because once upon a time I thought I was Wonder Woman, with the cape and the bracelets and the, and all that. And that I practiced savior behavior, that I could fix, save, heal, and cure the world. And then the bionic woman part, even though I don't know whether it's literally a bionic body part, but the stent that I have in my heart, I consider my bionic body part. So I teach people how to have whole life makeovers in the midst of what they might be going through.
I think that's awesome, because you need something to change it around, and it just sometimes just a little spark like that can be the catalyst to get something out of their stuckness. We talk about that term stuck comes in a lot here in this show.
Sure. Yeah. And it is easy to get stuck in poor me. Now, occasionally I'll throw a pity party for myself, and I give myself permission. It's not fair, and how come, and why did they say that? Why did they do that? How come this isn't happening? And I stick around the party for only a little while when I realize I'm the only guest there. And it's not much fun here by myself.
Yeah, if I have a friend of mine, Julia. She was a stroke survivor. Julia Fox Garrison. She wrote an amazing book. And she talked about having a pity party, and she said, just go ahead. She says, go ahead and throw a pity party for yourself if you want to. Come early. Even wear the lampshade on your head. Do whatever you want to do. Just don't stay there. Don't be the last one there.
Yeah, no, not much fun.
Now let's talk a little bit about your website, the Optimistical.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. The term optimistical came to me in a dream. I get a lot of messages in dreams and in meditation, and this one said, "You're not just an optimist; you're an optimistic who sees the world through the eyes of possibility." And a friend of mine took those words and she created a meme. She found this image of an elephant sitting on a bird's nest with a top hat and a propeller and a little bird sitting on the back of the elephant. And she superimposed the words over it. And we started spreading it around. On my birthday 2 years ago, I think it was, a friend messaged me and said, guess what? Julian Lennon had posted your meme on his Facebook page. I said, nah, you're kidding, right? And they said, no, go look. And he did. And it was so exciting because this little critter, or critters, the elephant and the bird, went on what I call a worldwide whirlwind tour. And it's just showing up all kinds of places. So that's why I decided to call my website, Optimistical, for that very reason. So if you go on the website, you'll find some articles that I've written, including an interview that I did with His Holiness the Dalai Lama in 2008. That was a blast. That was a dream into dream into a lifetime interview. It took me 20 years to manifest it, and it's still surrealistic that I actually got to sit with His Holiness. And he's an amazing hugger, by the way. He's just a very engaging, sweet soul, and what you see is what you get. He's kind of become a spiritual rock star, is how I look at him. That he's really gotten around. He was at Glastonbury last year, and he spoke on stage there, and there's all kinds of YouTube videos. So if you go on the website, you'll see that interview, other videos that I've done, other articles that I've written, and I encourage people to come play. And I'm very active on Facebook. I'm a social media networking queen, I guess, and I love having people come to my page and play and interact. And the only rules are nothing sexist, racist, violent, homophobic, xenophobic, no hateful talk, just love talk. But you're welcome to come play on the page too.
How long was the actual interview that you had with the Dalai Lama?
The interview was 45 minutes. Now, the way that it happened was I have a friend named Greg Schultz, who is an American-born Buddhist, very active in the Tibetan rights movement. And he had been my go-to guy for years trying to get this interview. And finally, he was able to make it happen. When His Holiness came to Philadelphia, Greg was the event coordinator, and he arranged the interview. And initially, it was just going to be me. I was going to be the only journalist in the Philadelphia area who had access to him. And I went, oh my goodness. And then the next day, he gets back to me and says, well, you still have the interview, but they want someone from the Philadelphia Inquirer to do the interview as well. Now, you don't think I said, nah, if I can't have it to myself, I don't want it. So David O'Reilly, who I absolutely loved reading, was the religion columnist for the Inquirer. So the two of us were given access to His Holiness. And we met the day before at a Buddhist temple in Philadelphia. And we were like these two conspiratorial little kids looking at all the other reporters saying, they don't know that tomorrow at this time, we're going to be with His Holiness. So David said, I got a new suit for the occasion. And I said, I got a new dress for the occasion. And we were each going to be given 15 minutes with him. And I said, what about, in the spirit of cooperation, we go in together and we get a whole half hour? Well, we went in and he gave us 45 minutes. It was absolutely remarkable to have that time with him. And he had like the smooth baby skin and dimples, and he was a really interesting juxtaposition of East and West. He had his robes on, but he also had Western Oxford shoes, burgundy socks. He had a Western watch on, and then he had purple mala beads. I think the mala beads were on the other hand. And the one image that stays with me was at the very end of the interview, and I don't even remember the last question that I asked him. He had his hands behind his head, leaning back like this and laughing. And I don't even remember what he was laughing about, but I thought, oh, he got the cosmic joke. And whatever it was, I have no clue. But the interview itself it wasn't your typical Q&A, political stuff. I wanted to know the man. So I said, how do you take care of yourself? And at the time, he was 75. He's 80. He'll be 81 this year. And he said, I stopped work at like 4:30, went right to bed, didn't eat dinner, slept until, I don't know, like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, would get up and meditate and eat and then start his day. And my observation was that he seemed more like a traveling professor than an actual political leader. He doesn't, again, I don't know what he's like behind other closed doors, but with us, he was more about the heart to heart than going head to head with anybody. And he's an intellectual guy. He's incredibly cerebral, but also like a nice balance. He's heart centered as well. And I could still remember, the hug, and I could still remember the conversation, like he was sitting with us right now. Just a remarkable man.
That's pretty awesome. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Now, is he considered actually a political leader or a spiritual leader, or both?
Both. I mean, he is still the political leader of the Tibetan government in exile, but I'm imagining that he has a lot of advisors. That, again, I don't know the behind the scenes political stuff, but I think he's considered both. From the beginning, he was considered both, and he's recognized throughout the world, again, as being in both categories.
Yeah, I've heard him being like compared, like, because like with Wayne Dyer he was like, Wayne Dyer was like known as like the second most spiritual guy.
Yeah, Wayne was a pretty cool guy. I got to meet him a few years ago in 2011, and I had interviewed him in the 1990s. I was a magazine publisher for 10 years. The magazine was called Visions, and Wayne was an incredible role model for me. And when he died this past year, it was, I don't know how to describe it. Having gone through what I went through, death, not that death doesn't faze me, but it doesn't affect me the way it used to. And I remember when Wayne had a heart attack, I don't know how many years ago it was when I interviewed him. He says, I don't do heart attacks. I don't know what this is about. Why this happened. And he had experienced some other losses at the time. And so when I had my heart attack, I thought, okay, I'm going to channel Wayne. I don't do heart attacks. What the heck is this? And he actually, has been such an incredible, even in death, has been such an incredible influence on my life. I went to a conference in Phoenix where he was going to be one of the speakers. So instead, there was a tribute to him, and there was just so much love in that room, and we could feel Wayne's presence as well. So he's still very much a part of a lot of us.
I feel the exact same way with Wayne Dyer. I really do. I followed him for years. I used to listen to him every Monday. In fact, I was on his show one time. I talked to him, not for a real long time, but I called in. It was cool. Yeah, he was a sweetheart. So Edie, because we're getting close to the end of the time here, what would you like people to know about you before we go away?
To know about me? Well, there's a lot of things, but I think the biggest thing is for people to know that I am you, that I am I'm a reflection of you. I'm a mirror of you. And the stretches that I take in my life are to let people know that it's possible for them to stretch. My writing, which, as you said, you can find on BeliefNet, Elephant Journal, Good Men Project, Huffington Post, Psych Central, are all about taking stretches in life, because you never know, as I said, the last day that you're going to be on this planet. So I encourage you to live full out, to live fully. And the radio show you'd mentioned, every Thursday night from 8 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, called It's All About Relationships, on Vivid Life Radio. It's Vivid, VIVID, life.me. And I have extraordinary guests on my show that talk about a lot of the same things that we talk about here. So I thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to your listeners, viewers, and sending you a big hug.
And the best way to get a hold of you then would be to go to
Opti Mystical. Yep. OPTI-mystical.com. And again, you can connect with me there. You can connect with me on Facebook as well. I'm active there as well.
Okay, no, I just messed up I'm putting in the Vivid Life, but I think I just messed up the link. So let me do it. So it's http
www.vividlife.me.
I'm a one-finger typer, so it takes.
Okay, I was gonna say it sounded like a heartbeat there, going thump 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 thump.
Wonderful. Now, Craig asked a question before. Is there a recording of the speech that you mentioned? Is that on your website?
Recording of the speech,
You
meaning
did a speech before about, I think it was about the heart attack.
oh yeah, it's on not on my website yet, but it's on my Facebook page. I can send you the link, Bob, when we're done, and people can watch it. And it's like a 10-second clip where I was talking about the heart attack experience, but I encourage people to spread it around because it can save lives.
And what is your fan page name on Facebook?
Well, I have the place where I'm most active is just as Edie Weinstein.
Okay.
EDIEWEINSTEIN.
Okay. Just your regular page.
Yep. I have others as well, but that's where I'm the most active.
Okay. All righty. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Edie, for coming. I really appreciate you. I honor you for being on here today.
My pleasure.
It's just we had a great value about living a life and purpose, because we never know when the time is up.
Nope, that's it. Absolutely not. Nope.
Okay, Edie, well, thank you so much. I will send
pleasure.
you out the replay real soon as it pops up, and I will send it to you, and I'll put your links inside of there so people can get a hold of you.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Bob. Take care.
Okay,
my pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, everybody. But before I go, you can go if you want to go, Edie,
okay.
But I just want to tell people about tomorrow. Tomorrow, I've got actually 2 shows coming on tomorrow, which I don't usually do 2 shows like this. I usually have the same show on 8:30 in the morning all the time. But I've got this incredible guy called Paul Santini. Paul Santini does these meditations and does all these really cool things. It's spiritual, it's mental, it's emotional. You just gotta check him out. I just found him kind of like recently, but he's got like hours and hours of free stuff on Paul Santisi, and you can find him on YouTube. Just really cool guy. And then at 11 o'clock Pacific time, 2 o'clock Eastern time, I've got Robert Hollis is coming on. So I made a special show just to fit in for his time. So 2 shows tomorrow. So check that out. Well, thanks everybody for coming again. I really appreciate that. So you guys go out there, have yourself a great day, filled with positive momentum, and practice gratitude in advance because it works. All right, bye-bye.